Welcome to Conspiracy Corner, the show where we dive deep into some of the most interesting, controversial, and mysterious topics out there. Today, we're tackling a topic that has raised a lot of eyebrows, sparked heated debates, and, let's face it, created a lot of confusion over the past few years. Today, we're talking about 5G technology. Now, 5G isn't just another buzzword. It's the latest iteration of mobile network technology, and it's got some people excited, others worried, and some downright scared. But here's the big question. Does 5G technology really pose a health risk? Or is it just a massive conspiracy theory fueled by misinformation and fear? Over the next 2 hours, we'll dive deep into the facts, the fears, and the myths surrounding 5G. So buckle up, because we're about to go on a wild ride. So let's begin with the basics. What exactly is 5G? We've all heard the term, but it's important to understand what it means before we can start talking about the supposed risks. 5G stands for fifth generation wireless technology, and it's the successor to 4G, the technology we've been using for the past decade. But 5G isn't just a small upgrade. It promises to completely revolutionize how we connect to the internet, how we communicate, and even how we interact with technology on a daily basis. Where 4G networks give you a maximum speed of about 100 megabits per second in ideal conditions, 5G can theoretically offer speeds up to 10 gigabits per second, which is 100 times faster. That means downloading a high-definition movie in seconds, having zero lag when video conferencing, and even streaming 4K content without buffering. Sounds incredible, right? But speed is just one part of the story. 5G also drastically reduces latency, the delay between sending and receiving data. This could be a game changer for things like self-driving cars, augmented reality, and virtual reality, which require near-instant communication between devices and networks. There's also the capacity of the network. 5G can support far more connected devices simultaneously, which is essential for the growing world of IT. From smart homes to connected cities, 5G is expected to enable everything from your smart fridge to traffic lights to communicate with each other. So now that we understand what 5G is, let's talk about where the conspiracy theories surrounding it began. How did something so revolutionary become the subject of so much fear? The roots of the 5G conspiracy theory can be traced back to a mixture of technological skepticism, fear of the unknown, and long-standing fears of radiation. As soon as the rollout of 5G began in various countries, some people started to associate the new technology with health problems. Why? Because 5G uses higher frequency radio waves than previous generations of mobile technology. The higher the frequency, the more energy the waves carry. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. The introduction of 5G also meant more towers, especially small cell towers placed close to populated areas, often near schools and hospitals. This increase in the number of cell towers and especially the sight of these new 5G towers in communities began to spark fears that people were being exposed to more radiation than ever before. One of the earliest theories to catch fire was that 5G could cause cancer. Cancer is often at the heart of most health-related conspiracy theories about radiation, and since 5G uses a different frequency range than 4G or Wi-Fi, people began to worry that the increased exposure would have devastating health effects. But it wasn't just cancer that people feared. In fact, some of the claims were even wilder. People linked 5G to the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, you heard that right. There were conspiracy theorists who argued that 5G somehow helped spread the virus, or that the virus was created as a distraction while the rollout of 5G technology took place in the background. This idea was completely baseless, but as the pandemic grew, so did the number of conspiracy theories surrounding 5G. Videos, memes, and posts about the supposed dangers of 5G went viral, and this information spread rapidly, especially in an age when misinformation can easily be shared. Now, let's get into the science behind 5G and health risks. We know the conspiracy theories are out there, but what does the science actually say? To start, it's important to note that 5G, like 4G and Wi-Fi, relies on radio frequency radiation to transmit data. And this is where things can get confusing. Not all radiation is created equal. 5G uses a different frequency range than previous generations, but it still falls under the category of non-ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing radiation is the kind that doesn't have enough energy to remove electrons from atoms or molecules. This is different from ionizing radiation like the kind you get from X-rays or gamma rays, which can cause DNA damage and potentially lead to cancer. That's why ionizing radiation is dangerous and why things like nuclear radiation are heavily regulated. On the other hand, non-ionizing radiation is generally considered safe, and there's no solid scientific evidence to suggest that the frequencies used by 5G can cause harm in humans. Organizations like the World Health Organization, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration have all stated that 5G, at the levels currently in use, is not a health risk. However, let's not ignore the concerns that continue to be raised. Some independent researchers have raised alarms about long-term exposure. Though no definitive studies have yet confirmed any health risks, some scientists argue that the cumulative effects of RF radiation over decades need to be studied further. But here's where it gets a bit more complicated. While the majority of studies on radio frequency radiation have not shown harmful effects, there are some anecdotal reports and smaller studies that suggest there could be biological effects. These effects, however, are not yet proven to be harmful. For example, melatonin production, the hormone that regulates sleep, is known to be influenced by electromagnetic fields. Some studies suggest that chronic exposure to low levels of radiation could disrupt melatonin levels, leading to sleep disturbances. But we're talking about low-level exposure, far below the levels emitted by mobile phones and 5G towers. Let's talk more about the health symptoms that people report when they're exposed to 5G, or rather, electromagnetic fields in general. This is a key piece of the puzzle that fuels the conspiracy. Many people report headaches, dizziness, fatigue, tinnitus, and even nausea when they're in areas with high electromagnetic radiation, particularly near 5G towers. There's a condition called electromagnetic hypersensitivity, where individuals claim to experience a variety of symptoms when exposed to electromagnetic fields. However, here's the catch. While EHS is real to those who suffer from it, scientific studies have not been able to prove a causal link between electromagnetic exposure and these symptoms. In fact, some studies have shown that when people who claim to have EHS are exposed to electromagnetic fields in blind trials where they don't know whether they're being exposed or not, they still report symptoms. This suggests that the issue might be psychological rather than physiological. That said, it's important to acknowledge the very real psychological effects that fear and anxiety about 5G can cause. The fear of exposure to radiation can lead to stress and other health problems. It's a complex issue, and one that doesn't have a simple solution. So, why has misinformation about 5G gained so much traction? How has it spread so quickly, despite the overwhelming evidence that 5G is safe? The answer lies in the psychology of misinformation. In today's world, information moves fast, and it's not always accurate. There's a reason why outrageous and fear-inducing theories tend to spread faster than others, because they tap into our primal instincts. Fear of technology and distrust of governments and corporations have fueled the belief that 5G is dangerous. Add to that the anonymity and echo chambers of social media, and you have the perfect storm for conspiracy theories to thrive. But it's not just random internet users spreading the word. Some well-known figures have also amplified these theories. Celebrities, influencers, and even political figures have fueled the fire by endorsing 5G conspiracy theories, whether through social media or public statements. One of the most significant incidents was when actor John Cusack posted about 5G being linked to COVID-19. Despite the lack of evidence, these kinds of posts can shape public opinion. So, what's next? Will 5G be as dangerous as some believe, or is it just a media-generated fear? Moving forward, it's crucial that more long-term studies are conducted to fully understand the health effects of constant exposure to 5G. While current evidence suggests that 5G is safe, the technology is still in its early stages, and research will continue as it becomes more widespread. But here's the bottom line. As of now, there's no definitive evidence that 5G is harmful to human health. Still, as we push the boundaries of technology, it's important to remain vigilant, stay informed, and keep an open mind to future research. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Conspiracy Corner. I hope this episode has helped clear up some of the confusion surrounding 5G and the conspiracy theories about its health risks. Remember, it's always important to question what you hear, but it's equally important to seek out credible sources of information. Stay informed, stay safe, and until next time, keep questioning everything.